My dear friends, I want you to imagine just for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a vast and endless ocean. Not an ordinary ocean made of water, but an ocean of possibility, an ocean without beginning and without end. An ocean that does not resist you, does not judge you, does not ask where you have been, what mistakes you have made, or how many times you have doubted yourself. It simply exists, open and available, waiting for you to recognize that you are not separate from it. That ocean, my dear friends, is your consciousness. It is deeper than your thoughts. It is wider than your memories. It is greater than your past. It is the invisible field from which your life is constantly being shaped. And tonight, I want to invite you into a very specific state of consciousness, a state that may seem strange at first, especially if you have spent many years worrying, striving, defending yourself, or expecting life to disappoint you. It is the state of living as if everything always works out for you. Now, I can almost hear some of you saying, but Wayne, how can I possibly live that way when my life does not look that way? How can I act as if everything is working out when the evidence around me seems to say the opposite? How can I believe that life is supporting me when I have bills, uncertainty, conflict, illness, heartbreak, fear, and so many unanswered questions? And I understand that question. I understand it because the world of appearances can be very convincing. The senses are loud, the facts seem solid, the circumstances seem final. The mind looks around and says, this is reality, this is what is happening, this is what I must react to. But I want to offer you a different understanding tonight. What you are looking at right now is not the final word. Your present circumstances are not your permanent destiny. What you see around you is, in many ways, the shadow of what you have previously believed, assumed, feared, accepted, or repeatedly imagined. It is the world that was. It is the result of consciousness already expressed. But the world you're moving into is being formed by the consciousness you are choosing now. That is why this moment is so powerful. Not tomorrow, not when everything changes, not when you feel ready, not when someone gives you permission. This moment, right now, is creative. Right now, you are either repeating the old story or entering a new one. Right now, you are either giving power to appearances or giving power to the invisible truth within you. And the truth I want you to hold gently in your heart is this: everything can work out for you when you begin to live from the assumption that life is not against you. Life is not your enemy. The universe is not punishing you. God is not withholding from you. The infinite intelligence that beats your heart, grows the trees, turns the earth, and guides the stars is not trying to make your life impossible. It is forever seeking fuller expression through you. But you must become available to that expression. And availability begins with your state of being. There is a line from Scripture that says, all things are possible to the one who believes. Now that is not a decorative phrase. It is not merely something to place on a wall or repeat when life is easy. It is a spiritual principle. It is a statement about the nature of consciousness. Belief is not simply agreeing with an idea. Belief is the state you live from. It is what you feel to be true before the evidence arrives. It is what you return to when the senses argue. It is the inner atmosphere you carry as you move through the world. When you truly believe that everything is working out for your highest good, you do not become passive, you become aligned. You stop fighting against life and begin cooperating with the intelligence that is already moving through life. And this alignment changes everything. You begin to see delays differently. You begin to see closed doors differently. You begin to see disappointment differently. You begin to understand that what looks like rejection may actually be protection. What looks like failure may actually be redirection. What looks like a pause may actually be preparation. What looks like the end may actually be the clearing of space for something far more aligned with who you are becoming. But you cannot see this when you are trapped in fear. Fear narrows the vision. Faith expands it. Fear says, this is happening to me. Faith says, something is being arranged through this. Fear says, I am being blocked. Faith says, I am being guided. Fear says, nothing is working. Faith says, even this is part of the unfolding. And I want you to understand something very clearly. Living as if everything works out for you does not mean pretending that challenges do not exist. It does not mean you deny pain. It does not mean you walk through life with a false smile while your heart is breaking. It means that even when challenges appear, you refuse to surrender your inner authority to them. You refuse to say, this circumstance gets to define who I am. You refuse to let a temporary condition become your permanent identity. You learn to say, this may be happening around me, but it is not the truth of who I am. I am still connected to Source. I am still guided. I am still loved. I am still capable of receiving good. I am still in the process of becoming. That is not denial. That is spiritual maturity. Now, there is a principle I want to share with you, and if you truly take it in, it can revolutionize the way you live. The world is yourself pushed out. Every relationship, every circumstance, every event you experience is filtered through the content of your consciousness. This does not mean you blame yourself for every difficulty. It does not mean you shame yourself for what you have experienced. Blame and shame are simply more forms of unconsciousness. What it means is that your consciousness is participatory. You are not merely a victim of a world outside of you. You are a creative participant in the unfolding of your life. When your inner assumptions change, your outer experience begins to reorganize. Not always instantly, not always according to the timetable your ego prefers, but inevitably, life begins to reflect a new pattern. So the question becomes, what pattern are you living from? Are you living from the pattern of struggle? Are you living from the pattern of things never work out for me? Are you living from the pattern of I always have to fight? Are you living from the pattern of I am unsupported? Or are you willing to enter a new pattern? A pattern that says, I may not see the whole path, but I trust the next step. A pattern that says, I do not need to control every detail in order to be safe. A pattern that says, life is arranging itself in ways I cannot yet understand. A pattern that says, everything is working out for me, even now. This is where transformation begins. It begins not with forcing the world to change, but with changing the state from which you meet the world. Instead of seeing life as a battlefield, begin to see it as a classroom. Instead of seeing obstacles as proof that you are failing, begin to see them as invitations into a greater version of yourself. Instead of seeing uncertainty as danger, begin to see it as the open space where infinite intelligence can move. This is not shallow positive thinking. Positive thinking alone often tries to place pleasant words over unchanged fear. What I am speaking of is deeper than that. I am speaking of a restructuring of your relationship with reality itself. You begin to live as one who knows that the invisible is more powerful than the visible. You begin to live as one who knows that imagination is not fantasy but a creative faculty. You begin to live as one who knows that your state of consciousness is the birthplace of your future experience. Think of your life as a great stage. For many years you may have believed that you were only an actor, walking onto the stage and performing lines that someone else had written. You may have believed that circumstances, family history, society, failure, trauma, or fear had written your script. But what if you discovered that you are not merely the actor? What if you are also the writer? What if you are also the director? What if you are also the observer? What if at any moment you can pause and say, this is not the only story available to me. I can choose another inner script. I can imagine a new ending. I can begin living from a higher assumption. This is what it means to act as if everything works out for you. It means you stop playing the role of the defeated one. You stop rehearsing disaster. You stop introducing yourself to life as someone who expects loss. You stop letting the past hand you your identity. You begin to embody a new role, not as a performance, but as a spiritual decision. You begin to ask, how would I walk into this room if I knew life was supporting me? How would I speak if I knew I was guided? How would I make this decision if I trusted that the right path would reveal itself? How would I respond to this challenge if I knew that somehow, in some way, it was being used for my growth? That question alone can change your energy. Try it in any situation. When fear arises, pause and ask, how would I respond right now if I knew that everything was working out for me? Notice what happens. Your breathing changes. Your shoulders soften. Your mind becomes less frantic. You stop searching for proof of disaster and begin noticing possibilities. You may still need to act. You may still need to make a decision. You may still need to have a difficult conversation or take a practical step. But your action now comes from alignment rather than panic. And action from alignment carries a very different energy. Panic says, I must make this happen because I am not safe. Alignment says, I am safe in source and I am being guided to the next right action. Panic exhausts you. Alignment strengthens you. Panic closes the imagination. Alignment opens it And once imagination opened, solutions began to appear that fear could never see. Now let us speak about faith. Faith is not believing after everything looks perfect. That is not faith. That is observation. Faith is choosing an inner knowing before the outer world is caught up. Faith is saying, even though I cannot yet see how this will work out, I am not going to worship the appearance of defeat. Faith is the decision to remain inwardly loyal to your highest vision. This is why persistence matters. Many people begin with enthusiasm. They hear a teaching like this and say, yes, everything is working out for me. And for a day or two they feel inspired, but then something happens. A bill arrives, someone criticizes them, a plan falls apart. A symptom returns, a door closes, and immediately they abandon the state. They say, see, it did not work. But you must remember, the physical world is often the last place change appears. The seed changes beneath the soil long before the sprout becomes visible. The dawn begins before the sun crosses the horizon. The inner world reorganizes before the outer world shows evidence. So during that in-between period, you must not panic. You must not dig up the seed every hour to see if it is growing. You must not return to the old story simply because the new one has not fully appeared. This is the true test of consciousness. Can you remain faithful to the state when the senses disagree? Can you say, I know what this looks like, but I also know that appearances are not final? Can you say, I may not understand this chapter, but I trust the intelligence writing through me? Can you say, something good can come from this and I am willing to be shown? This is how miracles become possible. Not because you force them, because you stop blocking them. Now, I want to be very clear. Acting as if everything works out for you is not an excuse for laziness. It is not sitting around waiting for life to deliver everything while you refuse to participate. That is not faith. That is avoidance. True faith moves, but it moves differently. It moves without desperation. It moves without self-hatred. It moves without the belief that you must earn your worth through suffering. When you know that everything is working out for you, you still take action. You make the phone call, you write the proposal, you care for your body, you apologize when needed. You set boundaries when needed, you study, you prepare, you show up. But you do these things as someone who is supported, not as someone who is abandoned. You act from inner abundance, not inner emptiness. You act as a co-creator, not as a victim begging for rescue. This is a profound difference. There is an old story in the biblical tradition about Joseph. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned, forgotten. If anyone had a reason to say life is against me, it was Joseph. And yet, the very events that looked like destruction became the pathway to his elevation. The betrayal moved him into a new land. The prison connected him to destiny. The delay positioned him for influence. What appeared to be working against him was secretly working through him. That is how life often unfolds. You may not be able to see the design while you are inside the difficulty. But if you remain in faith, if you refuse to collapse into bitterness, if you continue to act as if life is arranging something for your highest good, you create the inner conditions through which guidance can reach you. Bitterness blocks guidance. Despair blocks possibility. Resentment locks you into the past. But trust opens the door. Now, some of you may be facing something right now that feels too big. You may say, this teaching sounds beautiful, but my problem is serious. My situation is different. My pain is too deep. My obstacle is too large. And I would say to you gently, to the infinite, there are no large and small problems. The mind categorizes. The ego measures. The fearful self says, this is easy, but that is impossible. But the same intelligence that creates a galaxy also creates a blade of grass. The same power that turns an acorn into an oak tree also turns a wound into wisdom. The limits are not in the source. The limits are in the assumptions we carry about what source can do through us. That is why imagination is sacred. Your imagination is not a place where you escape reality. It is the place where you cooperate with creation. Before anything appears in form, it exists as image, feeling, possibility, inner knowing. Every invention, every healing, every movement, every act of courage began first in the invisible. Someone had to imagine a world not yet seen. Someone had to believe before evidence appeared. The Wright brothers imagined flight before the world accepted it. Great leaders imagined justice before society reflected it. Artists hear music before the audience hears it. Builders see the home before the foundation is laid. And you too must learn to see inwardly before you demand proof outwardly. This is why the nightly practice is so powerful. Before you sleep, your conscious mind begins to soften. The gate to the subconscious opens. And in that sacred transition between waking and sleep, you can impress upon the deeper mind a new assumption. So each night, before you drift off, review your day, but not as a victim collecting evidence of what went wrong. Review it as a conscious creator. If there was a difficult conversation, revise it in imagination. See it ending in peace. Feel understanding. Feel resolution. If there was a financial worry, revise it. See yourself supported. Feel relief. Feel gratitude. Feel doors opening. If there was a moment of fear, revise it. See yourself calm, guided, steady, held. If someone rejected you, revise it. See yourself remaining whole, loved, untouched in your essence. Do not do this mechanically. Feel it. Feeling is the language of the subconscious. Feeling is what impresses the deeper mind. As you fall asleep in the feeling that everything is working out for you, you are planting seeds in the creative soil of consciousness. And as you repeat this night after night, your waking life begins to reflect the new inner pattern. Again, this is not fantasy. This is not escaping life. This is learning to use the creative power that has always been operating, whether consciously or unconsciously. Most people use imagination against themselves. They imagine rejection, they imagine failure, they imagine loss, they imagine worst-case scenarios, and then call it being realistic. But fear-filled imagination is still imagination. Worry is imagination misused. Anxiety is the creative faculty pointed toward what you do not want. So why not begin using this sacred power intentionally? Why not imagine support? Why not imagine healing? Why not imagine peace? Why not imagine the conversation going well? Why not imagine yourself walking through life as someone deeply guided? The mind may say, but what if it does not happen? And I say, what if it does? What if life has more ways to bless you than your fear can currently see? What if the solution is already forming? What if the person you need is already being moved? What if the delay is protecting you? What if the closed door is saving you from a path too small for your soul? What if everything is working out, not according to your ego's schedule, but according to a wisdom greater than your ego can understand? Live there. Practice living there. This does not mean you will never feel fear again. Of course, fear may arise, doubt may arise, sadness may arise. You are human. The goal is not to become a stone statue with no emotion. The goal is to stop making temporary emotions your identity. When fear arises, do not hate it. Do not fight it. Do not say, I should not feel this. Simply notice it. Breathe. Thank it for trying to protect you. Then gently remind yourself, I am not fear. Fear is passing through me. I remain connected to Source. I choose trust again. This is how you return. Again and again, not perfectly, lovingly. The spiritual path is not about never forgetting. It is about remembering more quickly. Every time you return to faith, you strengthen the pathway. Every time you choose trust over panic, you create a new inner habit. Every time you say, everything is working out for me, and you allow yourself to feel even a small measure of that truth, you are re-educating your nervous system, your imagination, your consciousness. And over time, this state becomes natural. You stop needing everything to look perfect in order to feel supported. You stop needing everyone to approve of you in order to feel worthy. You stop needing guarantees in order to move forward. You begin to carry a quiet confidence, not loud, not arrogant, not performative, but steady. A confidence that says, I do not know exactly how, but I know I am guided. And that kind of knowing changes the way you walk into every situation. You become less reactive. You become more intuitive. You begin to hear the whisper, and the whisper is often quiet. It may say, call this person. It may say, wait. It may say, let go. It may say, try again. It may say, this is not for you. It may say, take the next step. When you are in fear, you cannot hear that whisper clearly. Fear is too noisy. But when you live in the assumption that everything is working out, the inner noise begins to settle and guidance becomes more available. This is one of the greatest gifts of faith. Faith restores your capacity to hear. Now, let us also understand surrender. Surrender does not mean you give up your dream. Surrender means you give up the demand that your dream must arrive only in the form your limited mind has chosen. The ego says, it must be this person, this job, this date, this method, this exact outcome, or nothing is working. The soul says, I know the essence of what I desire. I desire love. I desire peace. I desire abundance. I desire expression. I desire freedom. But I trust infinite intelligence to deliver the form that serves my highest good. This is freedom. When you surrender the form, you become available to something greater than your plan. Many people are not suffering because life is refusing to bless them. They are suffering because they are attached to one narrow doorway and cannot see the other doors opening around them. They say, it did not come through this person, so I am abandoned. No. Perhaps that person was not the channel. They say, this opportunity closed, so I have failed. No. Perhaps that opportunity was too small. They say, it is taking longer than I expected, so nothing is happening. No. Perhaps roots are growing. Trust the roots. Trust the unseen. Trust the process by which life prepares you for what you have asked to receive. Because sometimes the delay is not punishment. Sometimes it is development. Sometimes you are not waiting for the blessing. The blessing is waiting for you to become inwardly ready to hold it. Not because you are unworthy now, but because certain gifts require a larger consciousness. If abundance comes to a consciousness of fear, it may be lost or misused. If love comes to a heart that does not feel worthy, it may be rejected or sabotaged. If opportunity comes to someone who still identifies with failure, they may run from it. So life prepares you, it expands you, it teaches you to receive. And one of the most powerful ways to become ready is to act as if everything is working out even before the evidence comes. This trains your being to live in harmony with the good you desire. Now, as you move through your day, I want you to practice this in small ways. When traffic slows, instead of irritation, say, perhaps I am being perfectly timed. When someone does not respond, instead of panic, say, I do not need to chase what is aligned with me. When a plan changes, instead of despair, say, something wiser may be unfolding. When an unexpected expense appears, instead of collapsing into lack, say, I am open to supply from seen and unseen channels. When fear speaks, say, thank you, but I choose trust. These may seem like small shifts. They are not small. They are acts of creation. Each one interrupts the old pattern. Each one declares a new assumption. Each one tells your consciousness, we no longer live in the old identity. And life listens. Life always listens to who you are being. Not to what you say once, but to what you consistently embody. So be patient with yourself. If you have spent many years expecting things to go wrong, do not condemn yourself because you cannot change the pattern in one afternoon. Simply return again and again. Return to the state. Return to the assumption. Return to the knowing. Everything is working out for me. Say it slowly. Everything is working out for me. Not because I control every detail. Not because I can see the whole path. Not because there will never be challenges. But because I am one with the intelligence of life. And that intelligence is always moving toward fuller expression, greater love, deeper wisdom, and divine order. Everything is working out for me. Feel it in your body. Let it soften the places that have been bracing for disaster. Let it reach the younger parts of you that learn to expect disappointment. Let it speak to the heart that has been tired from trying to control everything. Let it become a prayer. Let it become a vibration. Let it become the atmosphere in which you live. Now, as we come toward the close of our time together, I want to leave you with this understanding. You are not a helpless victim of circumstance. You are not a forgotten being wandering through a random universe. You are an expression of infinite intelligence. You are a co-creator with life. Your consciousness matters. Your assumptions matter. Your inner state matters. And beginning today, you can choose to live from a higher state. You can choose to stop arguing for your limitations. You can choose to stop collecting evidence against yourself. You can choose to stop rehearsing the worst possible outcome. You can choose to stop saying, this always happens to me, and begin saying everything is being used for my highest good. You can choose to walk through the world as someone who is guided, as someone who is supported, as someone who is loved, as someone who may not know every answer but trusts the wisdom of the unfolding. And when you do this, you become a different kind of presence in the world. People may not know what has changed about you, but they will feel it. They will feel your peace. They will feel your steadiness. They will feel that you are no longer easily pulled into panic. They will feel that you are living from somewhere deeper than circumstance. And your life itself becomes a teaching, not because you preach loudly, but because you demonstrate quietly. You become living proof that a human being can move through uncertainty without losing faith. You become living proof that trust is not weakness. You become living proof that consciousness creates, that imagination matters, that the inner world is powerful, and that everything can work out when you align with the source from which all things flow. So go forward, my dear friends, with this knowing in your heart. Act as if everything works out for you. Speak as if you are guided. Walk as if you are supported. Choose as if the universe is friendly. Rest as if you are held. Dream as if possibility is infinite. And when appearances seem to contradict this truth, do not collapse. Pause. Breathe. Return. Say, I do not accept the appearance as final. I know something greater is unfolding. I know life is arranging itself for my highest good. I know that even now everything is working out for me. This is your practice. This is your power. This is your invitation. The world does not need more frightened people reacting from old wounds. The world needs awakened beings who remember who they are. People who live from love instead of fear. People who trust the unseen. People who bring peace into the room. People who demonstrate that the divine is not distant, but present, active, and alive within consciousness. Be one of those people. Be the one who trusts. Be the one who remembers. Be the one who refuses to let temporary appearances steal eternal truth. Be the one who says with quiet certainty, everything is working out for me, and through me, something good is working out for the world. And as you live from that state, you will begin to see your life transform, not always with noise, not always overnight, but surely, deeply, beautifully. Doors will open, guidance will come, peace will return, strength will rise. And you will look back one day at things you once feared and say, even that was part of the blessing, even that was leading me, even that was working out in ways I could not yet see. That is the miracle. Not merely that life changes, but that you change. And when you change at the level of consciousness, the world you experience must change with you. Thank you, my dear friends. Go now in peace. Go now in trust. Go now in the sacred assumption that everything is working out for you. Because when you live from that knowing, you do not merely wait for miracles. You become available to them